Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I'm joined here today by my lovely colleague. My name is Kay Mitchell. I work in the admissions office. I'm joined here today with my colleagues, Rose. Rose is our academic and programme advisor within the university and works extensively with our students, advising them, and is there for a listening ear and in terms of giving them any direction they need for their duration of study. You also have joined here by Fanula. Fanula is my colleague in the admissions office. And Fanula, thanks for coming along. And Rose and Fanula will look after your questions, which will be in the chat function that you can actually ask, or sorry, in the question and answer function, to confuse you thoroughly, the question and answer function that you can use as we go through the presentation. And also joined by Alana. Alana, thank you very much for making it across. Alana will chat to us at the very end. She's one of our art students. She's doing business and marketing, and she's also doing Nua Gaeilge. So it'll be lovely to hear from you, Alana, later on about how you're finding your programme of study, why you chose it, etc. And we will welcome any questions. So without further ado, I'm going to start talking to you about the arts programme, and we look at kind of all areas as regards the admission requirements, and we look at things like how the degree is structured, and then we'll have a little look at things that are good to know and where you'll find and source more information. So my name, as I said earlier on, is Kay Mitchell. My direct email address is k.mitchell@mu.ie. But of course, admissions@mu.ie, where you can find, if you pop in a question into the email, you will have it answered in due course. Of course, we have our phone lines open as well, and our website address. A very useful function that we have in the university for students is the Ask function. It's a web chat. And for students who come online, now you won't see this function unless you accept cookies, but if you do that, if you pop a question into Ask, then you can be reassured that you'll get a prompt answer. Now, if that comes in late in the evening or over the weekend, you'll have your answer first thing on Monday morning. And do follow us on all the usual social media websites. We're very active there communicating with you. So looking at first things first, how do you enter the arts degree? Well, now the arts degree is a broad-based humanities degree that's available through the MH101 CAO code. So if you're entering into an arts degree, there are certain subjects you require, as you do for all level 8 area of study. Particularly for arts, you are required to have a minimum of 6 academic subjects if you're coming in from Leaving Cert, 2 at higher level and 4 passes. That's usually 406 H7. Then in conjunction with that, because as we are an NUI university, we are looking for English, Irish and a third language. If for some reason you have an exemption in Irish or a third language or either, the place you have that exemption approved is with the governing body, the NUI. www.nui.ie will bring you to their landing page. If you click there on entry requirements, there's forms there that you can fill out and submit to them. And once you have an approval granted for an exemption, all of that information goes into your CAO file on the IT system in the CAO system. Now, looking at the points of entry, if you're coming in from Leaving Cert, our points of entry this year are looking at 338 points. So you're looking at, in actual fact, that is a typo, because I have down here 2022, but in actual fact, we haven't reached 2022 yet. So the entry points for coming into the arts degree in September 2021 actually is 338 points. That is reflective of the last individual who came into this degree programme. And is based on when the CAO points are allocated in the CAO system, what you'll find is that the last person in is the place where the cutoff points are actually published. So anybody who's coming into this degree program, you know, there's a huge opportunity to avail of a placement if you meet the entry requirements, because so many places are available. Then we accept entry routes from QQI, PLC colleges, the QQI routes, or this used to be also known as FETAC. Now, there's an abundance of links available for students out there, and they're all listed on the How to Apply section of the university's website. So do be assured, if you look in there, you will find much useful information about applying to the CAO based on a QQI application. And to meet the minimum entry requirements, you're needed a full award, to be granted a full award the year of your study, and a minimum of 5 distinctions. We also accept entrance from mature student applicants. So anybody who's aged 23 or above on the year in which they apply to the CAO and intend to enter the university, they're deemed to be of a mature student applicant category. So again, application is through the CAO. And for arts, generally the screening is on one suitability and level of preparation to come back into a 3-year degree of full-time study. And we will be in touch with you about that accordingly if you make your application to the CAO website, which, as you all know, is open at the moment for application. It opened on November the 5th and will stay open until February the 1st. Looking at the options then within arts, when you actually are choosing your arts degree, MH101, the two key words to associate with the arts degree in Maynooth are flexibility and choice. When you're applying to the CAO, all you have to put down on your CAO entry form is actually MH101. You don't actually choose your subjects until you're coming into the university to register for that particular area of study. So when you come in first year, you have a broad choices to make. Now I'll go through some of these options with you in a moment, but essentially when you're coming in first year, there are 33 options to choose from. 32 of those are academic subjects. One option in there is critical skills, which you can combine with any of the groups that are available there. And critical skills is already taught as part of all of our subjects within the arts area. It's about introducing you to the world of third level research, essay writing and presentation skills. And this is kind of added extra in small class teaching. And about, I'd say, half of the students who take our arts degree each year would avail of the critical skills modules. And these are based on continuous assessment. They're not based on exam mode. When you start off in first year, each year is 60 credits and every subject in the degree is 15 credits. Now, some of these you can take as a double credit option, as 30 credit option. Some of them you can just take on their own 15 credits with other subjects. But you have time to decide whether you want to take 4 areas of study, 3 areas of study, or 2 areas of study. When you get into this area of study, this is all about personal choice. Again, what's very unique about the Maynooth University Arts degree is that once you enter the course of study, you actually have 4 weeks to decide on your selection. So for students who are wise, they actually will have decided there'll be lots of lectures they may attend and pop in and out to. If it's a situation that we're restricted in teaching again next year because of this ongoing pandemic situation we're in, you can request access to the lectures via the departments. But it is important to have a lot of research done before coming in. Remember, there's more open days coming up again in April and in June where these talks will be repeated. And you also would have an opportunity to taste a lot of these subject areas prior to coming in for your orientation program before you start study with us. As with many of our degree programs, we do offer you an Erasmus program. So our international office would be delighted to hear from you if you'd like to have an Erasmus year, which is usually in Europe. And remember, a lot of the colleges teaching in Europe at the moment would prefer teaching through the medium of English, which you can avail of in your subject area, which means you would spend 2 years in Maynooth and you would spend year 3 somewhere else. Could be Europe, or it could be a study abroad in countries other than Europe. And you're back then in year 4, and then you graduate with a BA International, a 4-year BA International. So this is your first year critical skills. It's research, analyze and questions, that whole area of researching and sourcing material. In second year then, the electives are offered to students. These would be options outside of your main subject area. And depending on the timetable you have, you can see the electives you will actually choose. Now, each year you're taking 60 credits. So it would mean that you would drop a 10 credit module in one of the subjects you're taking through with you into year 2, or maybe you've decided to do a single honours program in which you would drop 10 credits of that. And again, you can take advice at that stage prior to doing that. Or you cannot avail of it. But if you wish to avail of a subject just outside of your discipline, it's really based on your areas of your areas of interest. You might want to broaden your horizons while you're in the university. Then in your final year and third year, we have in our Department of Teaching and Learning the experiential learning. It's all about connecting in your study to the workplace in terms of preparing you outside of the classroom for planning ahead into the next step in your career. What you're looking at here are the arts timetable groups. And over these groups, really, it looks a bit confusing. But what is actually showing and demonstrating to you is how our timetable works. This is all, as I said, replicated in the prospectus. You also will find it on the website. So essentially, any subjects in a group will be taught at the one time. So when you're looking here at group 1, you will notice we have subjects geography, German, law, the beginnings of maths pure, which crosses also into group 3, philosophy. And as you see, critical skills moves with every of them. So it's about, you cannot choose 2 subjects from the same group because essentially they'll always be taught at the same time. So it's about choosing a subject per group until you have decided what the combination of your degree will really look like. And that's what's pretty unique about Maynooth, and the fact that you can really decide your own portfolio, that you have 4 weeks to decide. You don't decide on the CAO, you just put down your MH101 code. And it's only when you're registering you're making that decision, and you still have then a month once lectures begin to change your mind again. And then depending on what you've chosen, as you'll see in a moment, there will be opportunities either to specialize in arts or to transfer into other degree programs. So looking across at this wide variety of subjects here, some of them many of you might be familiar with in terms of business, economics, accounting. Some others of you might prefer more technical areas. You've got your math studies, maths, physics. You also have technology taught there as part of music and music technology in group 4. We also have the option now for students to study computer science in first year, but you can take it there from group 5. And you can take that as a 15 credit option, or you can take it as a double subject. And if you combine it with math studies there in group 3, and after first year, if your grades are good, you could seek transfer out into software engineering, where you leave arts and develop an area of that. We have other transfer options as well. But staying with other subjects, then you have your languages. French, German, and Spanish would be our European languages. Now, we offer those at beginner's level, or they often are referred to as ab initio. So you can come in and take them as a double option in first year if you want to take it from the beginner's level. We also offer you beginner's Chinese for people who wish to avail of that. Now, as an entry requirement into the degree, a pass on Irish at a pass level will be quite sufficient for you to enter the degree program if you meet your points requirement and everything else. However, if you wish to register with the Department of Nua Gaeilge to take a degree in Irish, they are expecting you have a H4 grade. So just to be aware of that, if you're just, and that, as I said earlier on, is just for people who wish to take a degree in Irish. Then you have areas such as music. Now, we have a separate entry in the music degree, which is a restricted course you're coming in an addition for. But if you wish to avail of the subject music in arts, and if you come in your arts points and your entry requirements, then you can choose music there from group 5. And now, music is not a beginner's program in Maynooth. You actually have to have a background in music, maybe at honours leaving certificate level or grade 6 theory and practical from the Royal Irish Academy of Music or associated body. And in the last year or 2, we've also offered you music as a double subject. It's sitting there up there in group 2, where anybody coming into arts and they wish to take music can take it as a 15 credit option, or indeed you can take it as a 30 credit option. But of course, that would mean then you wouldn't be able to combine it with the other subjects in that area. Now in here, you're noticing we have business, economics and accounting, and we do have separate degree programs in those areas. But students, for example, who enter the broad-based business degree in Maynooth this year, MH104, the entry requirements for that were 441 points. And you are required to have a 04 H7 in mathematics to actually avail of that option. However, if you have arts down and you're coming in your arts points, while the mathematic requirement exists and it is advisory, there's nothing actually to prevent you from taking and registering from those areas in first year. So in first year, you can come in and take either business international management or marketing. You can also take 30 credits in business, where you're taking business from groups 2 and group 6. So if you complete 30 credits in any of those business streams with other subjects of your choice in year 1 and complete your first year exams and pass all your grades, then you can automatically transfer. If you wish to leave arts, you can stay in arts taking business in your other subject of choice, or of course you could transfer into year 2 of the business school and you exit as a business graduate. Our law programs, our Department of Law and Criminology, offer you separate entry into law. They're on the MH501 and 502 codes, and their points are quite high, much higher than arts, because there's more limited places and more limited availability of places rather through those entry programs. But all students who come into an arts degree can also choose law in year 1. And you can take that as a 15 credit option, but if you take it as a double subject in year 1, from group 1 there, which 2 other subjects of your choice, pass all of your first year exams, then you can create a pathway whereby you can actually transfer into year 2 of the School of Law and exit Maynooth with a recognised law degree, and you also would be graduating with that law qualification, not an arts qualification. You can, of course, stay in arts taking your law in another subject, or drop it, of course, and continue on with your other subjects, but you will not be graduating with a law degree. You need to do that transfer to actually do that. Then we have transfer options into the accountancy degree. That sits there in group 6. And again, like all of our subjects here that don't have a prerequisite or a pre-requirement, the accountancy area in first year is honours leaving certificate syllabus. So each year there is a cohort of students who haven't actually studied leaving certificate accounting. Others will have taken the pass grade, others perhaps the higher level paper. And accounting is available as a 15 credit option, or you can take it as a double subject. You can take it as a 30 credit option. And if you wish to take that, you can take it with law, business, finance, economics, those areas if you wish, or you can take it with your art subjects. But for people who want to transfer or create a pathway for transferring out into our accountancy degrees, you know, with law or with business or with finance, then certainly there is a pathway to do that. However, you do need more than a pass grade. There will be grade requirements for that for 60% in the 30 credit option in accounting, because you are moving in to a degree where exemptions will be looming for you once you graduate with that qualification. Then we have a whole mix of cultural subjects here, like English, history, geography. You have the medieval and Celtic studies areas, Greek and Roman civilization. If you're interested in culture, history, and society, which is a formation on the platform on which, you know, our modern day societies are built on in many ways. And philosophy, of course, is very cognizant of that, and very similar would be Greek and Roman civilization area. For people who want to explore other areas such as anthropology or sociology or politics, they're also available. Now, anthropology is a very interesting subject. It's very looking at how culture defines an individual. And this year we've brought in a new degree in the business faculty and the business school there for business with global studies, which is actually the area, an aspect of anthropology. So for students coming in, again, that 4 weeks of flexibility to decide whether it's an option you'd be interested in. Sociology in many ways would be maybe a bit similar to what you studied in SPHE in second level if you've taken that particular option. And then you have politics as well there over in group 6. Again, very similar to sociology itself in the fact that it comes from that department of sociology, but you're actually looking at the political framework on which our governments run and our society structures itself. And again, you know, be aware of it as an option. Media have a separate entry degree called the Media Studies degree, which offers you a lot of practical experience in the world of radio and television broadcasting. But they also offer you a subject in arts called Media and Cultural Studies. It's there in group 6. Now, this aspect of study doesn't offer you the practical placements, but if you're interested in the world of modern day communications as part of your degree program, it would be well worth having a look at in terms of the choices that might open to you. Criminology is another interesting one. It's one of those specialisms that has grown up in the last number of years, and you'll find it also in the Department of Law and the School of Law and Criminology. So for criminology, you're looking at an aspect and a specialization there in law of the criminal justice system. And you'll find many perspectives in this particular area in understanding the culture, the society, the thinking behind it, etc., and its effects on society generally. It can be taken in arts as a standalone subject, or indeed you can mix it with the subject law if you wish to create a pathway where you're transferring into law and criminology in year 2. But as a subject itself of an area of interest with lots of other subjects in here, it fits very well indeed. Looking then at the area of psychology. Now, many students I've met over the many years I've been working in this area in schools would express a huge interest in the subject and taking a degree in psychology. And for any of you in attendance, you are aware at this stage that they are usually high points, and Maynooth would be the same because there's very limited places and a high demand. But if you're coming into the arts degree, you can choose and work with the Department of Psychology and choose an option there called Psychological Studies. And you can take that from group 6 as a 15 credit option with other subjects of your choice. Now, there is no transfer pathway from psychological studies into the degree in psychology. That actually pathway doesn't exist because it's not quite the same area of study, but it is with the same department. So if you continue in year 2 and year 3 with psychological studies and another subject of your choice, and you achieve 60% grade in your modules in psychological studies at the end of that area of study after you've qualified with your degree, then you can use it as a stepping stone to do a 1-year full-time add-on master's, and that will give you your accreditation. So that is a brief overview, but really the whole takeaway from this slide is incredible choice, opportunity and flexibility that initially on your pathway in and initially in that first 4 weeks, and many options to specialize then after year 1. So following successful completion of year 1 then, staying within arts, you could decide to take 2 subjects as a double major, and there'll be 30 credit options each. You'd be taking 2 equally weighted in second and third year. Single major wouldn't be available in every area, but in areas like English, history, geography, anthropology, economics, finance, those areas are available to you that you can specialize in. And you also have a major minor, which a lot of students are curious about. Well, if you look at every year being 60 credits, it can mean you can divide up your subjects into a 40-20 ratio. Then the postgraduate specializations for education are available on the Maynooth campus. So anybody who's taken an arts degree with ideally 2 teaching subjects on your program of study, of course, 1 teaching subject will suffice as well. You can, of course, make an application for the professional masters in secondary school teaching, which is a 2-year add-on for professional training for the world of education at second level. Then you have the conversion masters for primary school teaching. So as many of you are aware, if you're in attendance, if any of you had an interest in primary school education, again, the points are very high because of the high demand ratio in that area. So what I would say to you is, if you have any degree, any level 8 honours degree, including an arts degree, you could apply there for that professional master's in primary school teaching. However, entry requirements are required. For example, you still need to meet the H4 grade in Irish, the 04, H7 in maths and English, and do expect an interview as Gaeilge agus as Sperla. So joining the Irish Society, keeping your fluency of Irish up. If Irish isn't something on an everyday use in your environment, do be aware of that. So these are the transfer pathways I have been alluding to, that after first year, if you have chosen the certain credits and modules, and again, that's all explained to you on the website and in the prospectus, you could have transferred into areas such as accounting with business, finance and law, into our business school with many of the options there. And again, we have a new degree there, a denominator degree with business and languages, and there are transfer pathways by choosing languages and business in first arts, transferring across, or with anthropology across to global studies. Then if you're much more interested in the financial area, the financial services area, you've got finance, you've also got the international finance and economics and quantitative finance. And as I've already alluded to, there are transfer options into year 2 law, and that could be either into year 2 of the 4-year program, which the department offers, or taking one of your subjects with it into year 2 of the BCL, or transferring into music. So as you can see, the options are quite numerous. There are many pathways after year 1, having chosen the correct modules and subject areas in first year. Then staying within arts, there are specializations that I briefly mentioned a moment ago. For areas such as anthropology, economics, English, history and geography, you can take single honour programs in those, and finance. Then you can focus in on areas such as international development. You've got your mathematics, mathematics pure and politics. So when I mentioned earlier on about developing your own unique portfolio, these are the things I was talking about. Either creating a pathway where after a first year university experience, you have decided what area you wish to go into, or staying within arts and deciding to specialize there. I suppose what it's good to know now, we'll be hearing from Alana now in a few minutes about the student experience, which will be very, very valuable. But when you're coming in, research really is the key to all of this, because this is an area of self-directed study where students coming particularly in from second level, they haven't actually realized the amount of personal responsibility that's actually handed to them at third level. You have excellent supports. You have a program advisors, academic advisors, you have your tutors, you have access to lectures, etc., etc. But for every hour you attend a lecture, you're expected to have the motivation to follow that up with 3 hours of study, of which you'll have an abundance of reading material. And we'll chat to Alana about that in a moment. So self-knowledge really is the key to success in this. And about choosing subjects you have a real interest in and you know you'll work best on. So it's about managing your work-life balance, really. And for employers out there, really what they're interested in, as employers tell me all of the time in the number of years I've been in this job, that what they want from graduates is they see a level 8 qualification as a graduate profile They see it as a terrific basis on which to build in-house training for their company area. For many, many areas of work out there, it's not as relevant that you have studied particular subjects, but it is very relevant that you have a level 8 qualification. Because when you have finished a leaving cert, if you're coming in from directly from school or from a post-leaving certificate college at QQI level 5, you're at level 5 in the National Framework of Qualifications. But going out up and into a level 8 study, then you have broadened your skill sets for research, independent learning, personal responsibility, meeting deadlines. Like there's a real penalty in third level for not meeting deadlines on essays and projects, that if you're late in submission, they will deduct marks per day you're late unless you have permission to have an extension. So for us working in the university, the key to all of it is self-knowledge. Do be aware of the costs involved. This year is €3,150 to register per year, as it is with all of the level 8 institutions. And, look and progress out into Susie, have a look if there's grants available. And that is per year you register. If you're not covered by Susie or a grant, let me just reassure you that, of course, you can put a payment plan in place. Further information then, of course, you have the admissions office email, the Ask facility on the chat on the website there that I mentioned earlier on. But of course, you also have the publications. What we have here is an image of the prospectus. It doesn't fit all the A5 of cover in, but that is the undergraduate prospectus we've published this year. And on the undergraduate section of the website, if you log on there, we can actually post you out a copy of the prospectus. But this copy is available to download as a PDF and a digital copy. I would also point you out to this one, the Maynooth University Arts Subject Guide. It's a very useful reference guide, because everything here I've passed over this morning in this presentation, or this afternoon in this presentation. There's an A to a Z directory there with a fulsome explanation as how you can use subjects and the subject combinations in all these areas if you wish to transfer into the variety of programs that we have those transfer options to. It also gives you a very good introduction to the table and how the options for double and single honours program actually work. So that is a very useful reference guide. And we don't have that printed out for everybody, but what we do have it available is a digital copy, which is quite easy to negotiate, or you can download it as a PDF. Okay, just looking here at my time now, I'm almost up to 1:45. So I think I might stop sharing for a moment and just see how things are going with my colleagues. And I'll just ask about queries or questions. And at this stage, I might actually introduce Alana. Alana, if you're there with us, we might start chatting to you because you're the person who's working on this degree program. And if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, perhaps why you have chosen arts and subjects you're doing. So I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks very much for having me. So I chose to do arts because when I was in 6th year, I wasn't really very sure what I wanted to do. I thought maybe music was something for me. And I chose to do arts in Maynooth because I knew I could mix and match subjects from the 6 different subject groups, which suited me a lot better. Because I suppose some of what I sort of thought I wanted to do, my ideas weren't, I suppose, traditional mixtures of subjects. So I also, as I said, I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't want to commit myself to a course that I wasn't 100% sure if that was the right subject for me. So that's why I really needed the 4 weeks of flexibility at the start of the arts degree to try out the subjects, try out new things as well, and then decide this is what I want to do. So I suppose, as I said, I thought music was for me, and thankfully I had 4 weeks to try it, and I decided no, it wasn't something that suited me personally, which was great. So at the end of the 4 weeks, I landed on a combination of 4 subjects. So I chose to do critical skills, Nua Gaeilge, business marketing, and accounting. And then progressing into 2nd year, I continued on with marketing and Nua Gaeilge. So I suppose as well, I chose Maynooth because I know Maynooth places quite an emphasis on Irish, and there's very much an active use of Gaeilge around the campus. So that was also very important to me going in. And then I know critical skills is one that Maynooth offers as well. So that was really important to me because, like a lot of students, I wasn't sure going in, how do I reference an essay? Like, how do I write an academic essay that kind of thing. How do I present my work? So I suppose that was really important for me progressing through to final year. I'm in final year now, so I think I forgot to mention that. But progressing on, like, it was really, really important for me to be able to do that and have those skills. So that's why I chose those subjects and I chose arts.
Absolutely. And how are you finding Nua Gaeilge? How did you find that compared to school, as school Irish? What was the difference? Because many students would be very interested in that if they're interested in taking Irish.
Yeah, I suppose for me, I went in with a good level of Irish, of spoken Irish. I suppose there's a lot of emphasis placed on grammar, so a lot of things that I wouldn't have learned in secondary school. So I suppose your I'm sure Katja, your Mo Cnealach, that kind of thing, you learn it in secondary school, but you will progress on to learn in a much like more like have a deeper understanding of the grammar then, sort of your Tishel Ginadach, your Tishel Anamach, the more not challenging, but more, I suppose, I'm trying to think of the word, like more progressed parts of the grammar. So that was definitely one of the things, and I found that really helpful for myself. So I suppose when I was in school, when I was writing my essays, the teacher would write in, no, this is, for example, Tishel Ginadach, but I didn't know what that was. So now it's great that I can understand it. I know what that means. I know how to use it. So that has definitely helped me in writing my essays, and definitely my spoken Irish and my grammar skills. Then, as well as that, I suppose the actual literature side of it. So there's a lot more emphasis, I suppose, placed on literature if that's what you're interested in. I am doing a minor, but I know there are also modules in drama. There are essay writing. There's poems, literature. Like, there's so many options there. For someone that is interested in the literature side of it as well.
Terrific, Lana, thank you. There was questions there that have already been answered, but I think sometimes it's nice to voice them. When students are talking about contact hours, it's not something I had mentioned. So how do you find the contact hours?
I find that they're definitely manageable. I think
We tell students it's about 15 to 18 hours a week. Is that
yeah,
approximately what we're looking at?
yeah. So you have to bear in mind as well, you have your lecture hours. We have to bear in mind that you're going to have tutorials as well on top of that, which are actually great because they're smaller class sizes. I suppose they're about 20 people in each class, which I suppose is probably the same size as around a secondary school class. But when you're used to coming from lectures with like hundreds of people, it feels great, and you can ask all the questions that you have, get more insight, and they're really engaging as well. So even if you don't think of the question, if someone else asks it and you say, oh, that's a great question, I hadn't thought of it in that way, and you do really learn so much more. So they're terrific, really, the tutorials.
That is fantastic. And tell me, how did you find, do you find the department easy to contact with and work? Like if you had a question for a lecture, do you find them easy to make contact with? Like how supportive would you honestly say that the academic staff are? Because I know we portray this very self-directed aspect of study at third level, including an arts degree. Would you find that you can get the assistance when you need it, or has there been any barriers to that?
No, I've definitely been able to get as much help as I've needed. I've often had to email lecturers, even if it's only a small question, I don't know what the reference is for this. They are more than happy to help you and to assist you in any way they possibly can, which has been great. Through email, or I've even during tutorials to ask them questions, or else if you're not comfortable during the tutorial to ask them the questions, they will hang around afterwards and you can talk to them then in private. And honestly, it is fantastic to get that help.
It is. It is absolutely fantastic. And in terms of the reading, I mean, I would have said there, for every hour you attend a lecture, you'd probably have to punch in about 2 or 3 hours reading. Have I over exaggerated that? Or I think that's sometimes something that the leavings are. Did you find that a bit of a culture shock when you came to third level?
Definitely. I suppose we have to go and do the extra research yourself, but it is, once again, it really does help in your assignments. You're going to have to reference them anyway, so you might as well do the readings. There's no point in trying to avoid them. But I suppose in terms of the actual readings, it would typically take about 2 to 3 hours, but it does depend on how long the chapters are, how long the readings are put up. So you could get lucky some weeks, it might take you an hour and a half. It just depends.
Yes. And did you find it a little bit of a culture shock when they weren't asking for homework to be submitted? I know you're doing a language now, so that's probably slightly a little bit different. But for the most part in the business area, they don't actually monitor your study. It's up to you to monitor your study. Did you find that a bit of a culture shock?
Oh, definitely, yeah. But I feel like because it was on me to decide, not decide to do it, but because nobody was checking it, I said, well, I might as well do it anyway. It kind of, I suppose, was a bit easier than in school when you're like, oh, I hope I don't have this wrong, like, or else it's fairly embarrassing coming back with big load of X's on it or whatever. But yeah, I feel like just because they're not actually monitoring it, you're still going to do it because you're doing it for yourself. You've picked it as an area you're interested in, so you do want to research it more and learn more about it anyway.
And in terms of clubs and societies, have you had, I know we've been pandemic now, but have you had much opportunities to get engaged in college life? Because that is something that was a huge part of the student experience. And with the global pandemic and remote teaching, it kind of went into slumberland a little bit. How is that getting managed?
Yeah, so I have been part of the Disney Society since I started, and I have gone to a few of their events. I have to say, even last year, they ran events online, and even they were fantastic. Just quizzes. I'm trying to think. One of them was like a puzzle to solve, things like that. As well as that, then the SU, the Students' Union, they hosted quizzes as well, which were actually really good fun on Kahoot. So it was great crack to get your friends involved, sit there and have a few snacks, whatever, do your quiz. And then see at the end of it, you might even win a prize if you're lucky.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, wasn't that lucky, but anyway.
And tell me, Alana, what did you find? So, were you with us a year before you went into lockdown?
It was indeed, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you find that difference? Was it a bit of a culture shock? Because we went online totally. I know it's not like that now, but in terms of first year, you were very busy on the campus. So what was it like having to revert then to online teaching?
I suppose it was a challenge at first. I wouldn't have been the most technologically minded, so I suppose going through that and figuring that out. But I learned fairly quickly and it was fine. I was able to easily adapt, and I found lecturers really did everything they could to help you by putting up the slides with voiceovers, doing live tutorials, live lectures, putting up the slides, really giving as much information as possible and helping you along the way. Was really great to have that support there.
Okay, thank you. So this, I suppose the point I'm after there is, while in school, like they're told, we're larger anonymous institutions in comparison to school, we are much larger. But I suppose the point I was trying to get across there, and they need to hear from the students, that they're not left on their own as much as they think. There are plenty of people to talk to and plenty of source material. If you were to think back for a second, and I know I didn't ask you about this question, but just there's no right or wrong answer to this. And if you saw the Alana who started, if you could have a word in her ear now, the Alana who appeared on campus that first day, is there any advice you'd give her now in retrospect when you're looking back to the person who arrived all bright eyed and full of energy on that first day on campus?
I suppose I would tell her, like, if I was back in sixth year now, I wouldn't have said that I would have done business. I would have said, yeah, I would have done Irish, but business wasn't something that I would have thought I would have done.
That's
So I
interesting.
would say, Alana, look, be open minded, try new things, go to lectures. Like, I went to law lectures, accounting, economics lectures. I tried them all out, and I suppose that's something
Good.
I thought I would have done. I was sort of my friends that pushed me into it, saying, "Oh, I want to go to this lecture." I said, "Okay, let's go." And I suppose just to be open minded and try new things, and as well just put in the effort. I suppose when you are trying to go from secondary school into university or college, it is difficult. It is a culture shock, but put in the effort because it is so worth it. And when you see that you're doing well and you get your grades back, it is really really rewarding. So yeah.
I'm so glad you said that you were taking a subject you didn't take in school, because one of the things that myself and my colleagues and Rose would hear from our first years as well, oh, how could I possibly take something I didn't take in Leaving Cert? It'd be too hard. But like the reality is, it's nothing not about being hard. It's about you being interested. Just talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I actually didn't. I did business from the junior cert, and I suppose it was something that I said, yeah, I like it, but I decided not to go on to 6th year with it, to do it for my leaving cert, and I actually did sort of regret it then in 6th year. I said, God, I wish I had tried business. But as I said, it wasn't something that I thought I'd be doing a degree in. But when I went to the actual lecture, I suppose the lecturers made it really interesting, and it wasn't a requirement to have it for the leaving cert, which was great. So I said I'd try it. And they really did go back to basics, back to start, and they were great at building on it then, which was great, that I wasn't left behind thinking, God, what is, for example, segmentation, or what does impulse buying mean, or just little simple things like that. So it was great to have that support there. And then I really wanted to just emphasize that if you do have a question, they were great at answering it. I did accounting as well, and I suppose one of the questions that maybe I thought was a stupid question, the lecturer was more than happy to answer it and explain it and go through it in detail for me. So that was really great to know that was there to avail of.
That is fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Ladies, Rose and Fionnuala, it's lovely to see you again. Is there anything there either of you want to talk about that you came across in a question, or you want to chat to us about for a moment?
Okay, well, I suppose the one thing is that the students are asking, can they take subjects in the same group? And unfortunately, students can't. You can only choose one subject from each group. So in that sense, if you're considering one or two subjects in a group, like what Alana has said, try it out. So you can go to one lecture today, go to the lecture of the other subject tomorrow in the first couple of weeks. So just because you can't choose it when you're registering doesn't necessarily mean it's gone as an option for you, because you can then change your registration within the first 4 weeks. So if you are unsure about your choices, and if there's two subjects in one group, try out the subject, and it is an option to do that. And this year it was even easier when subjects were online, and last year, because lectures were recorded, fingers crossed we're going to be back on campus next year, so you can pop into the lectures, and you can get a feel for what the lecturer is actually, the lecturer is teaching and what it's about. Because I noticed, like, the Lan used the word building, and for me, if you don't get those first couple of weeks, you're in a situation where you're trying to put a roof on a house and you haven't built the walls, because you have to get those first couple of lectures to understand what the subject is about. So try out as many as you can in the first week, because you can literally give yourself a full diary or a full timetable of classes from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday in that first week, and you're going to get a feel for the subject.
Fantastic, okay. Rose, thank you. Fionnuala, I know you have something to say there.
That's excellent advice, actually. It's one I often get asked on the road, as I'm sure you do as well, Kay.
Absolutely.
It's just in terms of credits, I suppose we bandy the word about, and it's people don't always know what we're talking about. So that came up once or twice, Kay.
Absolutely. Okay. Rose, do you want to chip in there, because you are much more adept at this now than
okay,
me.
So
I understand it, but you're dealing with this every single day of the week.
Every single day. So
every single day.
So basically, when you're making your every single day, that's it. I know better not say that. I know, maybe I will.
You have credits in your dreams.
We have different stages. Yeah, but I don't have credits. But there was one night, one morning, my husband says to me, "What does a restricted deficit mean?" Because I was talking about it in my sleep. So that's something that comes up at exam times. So anyway, but credits. So when you choose your course we refer to as your program in minute. And your program is broken down into subjects, and each of those subjects is then broken into modules, and each of the modules are worth credits, and the credits in the modules are determined by the number of hours study you have for that module, and the number of basically the work that's required for that particular module. So in first year, or in each year, you will do 60 credits. You will earn an arts degree after 3 years, after gaining 180 credits, or a science degree, or any of our 4-year degrees when you've earned 240 credits. But in first year, the majority of our modules our subjects are broken into 15 credits, and each of the credits are worth 7.5 credits each. So the credit is determined by the amount of study or the amount of work that's involved in each of the modules. So once you pass a module, you earn the credit for that module, and then that credit is then banked. So once you've got 60 credits at the end of the year, that's then banked and put away until you earn your 60 credits in second year, 60 credits in third year, and then you're awarded a degree. So basically, the credit determines the amount of study and the amount of contact hours you have in the university with the lecturing staff. offhand, in first year, it's maths and law are the only two subjects that I can think of that have a 2.5 credit module, a 5 credit module, and a 7.5 credit module. All of the other subjects are broken into two modules worth 7.5 credits each. So you would have roughly 3 hours of lectures a week, maybe a tutorial or two, and then your study outside of that. I know for me, you know, when I would be standing in front of students or talking online to students, you know, at the start of the academic year, I say to art students, they have the beauty of being able to treat their course like a job. So if you assign yourself, you know, that your study, you're going to work from 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening, you're going to have about 15 to 16 hours a week of lectures and tutorials. And the rest of the time, the 25 to 30 hours a week can be your study. So you have your evenings and your weekends free, or free for additional study coming up to exam time or when you're handing in your assignments. So, you know, if you're really good at time management, you can have a part-time job, you can still engage in your leisure activities and have a life, as well as achieve your full potential in terms of your academics.
Perfect, Rose. Perfect. That's excellent. Okay. That's wonderful. So after all those words of wisdoms, I don't see anything else in here. All I will say is slán agus beannacht, and thank you very, very much for everybody for being in attendance. And thank you so much, Alana, for popping on and talking to us about the student experience, and for Fionnuala and Rose for being here as well. We're bang up on 2 here, so we'll say goodbye to everybody and take care. And thank you very